Joetta. Why am I excited to have her here today? She's an Olympic athlete who many of you may already know about. She's made an indelible impact in sports and business after her legendary 24-year elite career as a half-mile runner. And she represented the United States in the 1988, 1992, 96, and 2000 Olympic Games. Joetta was voted the USA women's team captain for track and field and is now president of Joetta Sports and Beyond. She's here to talk with us about her P principles for success. And her acclaimed book has been considered a resource to both corporate and executives and youth. It is called Joetta's P Principles for Success, Life Lessons Learned from Track and Field. Let's enjoy a conversation with her now. Joetta, welcome.
Well, thank you, JBH. How are you? And thank you for having me on your show. I'm excited.
Oh, listen, girl, I'm so excited about this conversation. I could hardly contain myself all day. I started doing this podcast in order to share conversations with inspiring, successful, teaching people who role model for future generations. So I'm really excited that you're here today. Joetta, you continue to live a life that's so admirable. And for those in our family listening who don't know everything about you, share an explanation of some of the many accomplishments you've had in your life. Nobody can do it the way you can.
Well, thank you very much. You should be my new PR agent because that introduction in itself is excellent. And you know about excellence because you are excellent as well. I go by one name, Joetta. You've heard of Madonna, Oprah. You now have Joetta. And I'm a four-time Olympian. I've made the teams in 1988, 92, 96, and 2000. I'm a college graduate. I am a mother. I'm a businesswoman. I'm a leading authority on achievement, motivation, and mental health and wellness. And most of all, my job, my purpose in life, I now know is to make a difference in the lives of others by inspiring, by transforming, by believing in them, and by being philanthropic in endeavors that interest me.
Well, a lot of people say, hey, I want to be in her pocket when they talk about me. I want to sit at your feet when I talk about you.
Wow.
Yeah, girl. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I think about it, oftentimes when people set goals for themselves, they find their obstacles too difficult. And so they don't persevere through them. Yet some of your mindset around determination and persistence can be very inspiring to others. And I've heard you talk about gotta do. Walk us through gotta do and what it means.
Well, honestly, JBH, I will tell you, my father is the late, great Dr. Joe Clark. He was the subject of the movie Lean On Me. And my mother is Joetta Clark, and she was an entrepreneur in the city of Newark, New Jersey in the 1960s. So she had her own business. And growing up, we were faced with so many obstacles around race and around women empowerment. But she always said, and my father said as well, whatever you want to do, put your mind to it, and we will help navigate through things. So basically, over the years, I came up with the gotta do. It's not I would like to do, it would be nice if I have to. There are times in your life when you gotta do something. And because of that, I said, I've gotta make sure that the legacy of my parents that imbued in my spirit, I make sure that I help people throughout life. Doesn't matter where you come from, doesn't matter what you've been through. My goal is to let you know that you got to do it. And it may not be right now, but I always give people these two words, not yet. So if you just be patient, it will happen. Obviously, there's some work and effort that we have to put into the got to do, but you have to lay that foundation, that seed of the got to do. And once you do that, the finish line will be out there for you to run towards.
Oh my goodness! When I first heard you talk about gotta do, I thought about my daughter because when she was very young, still car seat young, I would her in the back of the car, and it was during the time when Tina Turner's song "What's Love Got to Do with It" was out.
Okay.
And she was a little one, and she'd be singing "Gotta do, play gotta do, mommy, play gotta do," and I think about you because in her mind, as she shared with me later in life, what's love got to do with it was kind of an almost opposite message of what Tina was giving. For her, it was like
Right.
love had everything to do with it, you know?
Right. And that's funny. Thank you for sharing that, because when I say the gotta do, I always tell people the gotta do is something that is your raison d'etre, something that is inside of you, your purpose. What is your purpose? And once you know your purpose, that gotta do is a lot simple. A lot of times people don't know what their purpose is. When you walk into a room and when you leave that room, people come to, they tell you, or you hear them tell other people that you did that for them, or you left that with them. So that's your purpose. When you're not working within your purpose, when you're in the room and you leave the room empty. So when I'm in my purpose, when I'm inspiring, when I'm talking, when I'm transforming, when I'm listening to really find out what you want to do, then I know that I'm in my purpose. And my purpose is to make sure you understand that life is hard. Strap them up and let's get busy.
Oh my goodness, girl. See, I just knew when we had this conversation, it was going to be church. I mean, let me pause 1 minute and say amen.
Amen, right? Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, in your book, Joetta's P Principles for Success, Life Lessons
Yes.
Learned from Track and Field, you talk about perseverance, positivity, and passion. Talk about that now. Go on, take us there.
Well, I'm going to be honest. I made 4 Olympic teams, but I tried out 6 times. So that means that I did not make the team twice. And as your viewers know, the Olympics come every 4 years. So I was in the top in the world for over 16 years and really over 20 years because of the other Olympic games that I did not make. And talk about perseverance. I grew up in the city of Newark, New Jersey, back in the early 60s. And when I was growing up, there was race divide. There were unequal, for no opportunities for women. Growing up and going to college, I had to deal with not getting the same playing field as boys. It was the NCAA's for the boys and the AIEWs for girls. But I had to persevere. But the reason why I had to persevere was because my parents told me that failure was not an option. It's just a nagging reality that kept you focused. So when things didn't go my way, when I fell down, I looked up, because if I could look up, I can get up. And I was upset. I was disappointed, but I remained optimistic and I had hope. I didn't make my first team. I didn't make my second team, but I gotta make my third team. So I went out there and I tried out that third time, and that was my first Olympic team. So perseverance is something that kind of aligns with motivation. People often ask me, how do you motivate somebody? But you can't motivate somebody. They have to have that seed in them. You can direct them. It's like that dog that's lying on a nail, and the dog is moaning and groaning, and someone asks the owner, why does the dog lie on that nail? Why doesn't he get up? And the owner says that it doesn't hurt bad enough. So when you're persevering, when you're trying to be that champion of your life, you got to find the thing that hurts you bad enough to get up off of that nail and do something about your condition in life, at home, in the workplace. That's what persevering is about, getting up off of that nail. Because the longer you lie on that nail, you become, it gets rough, it gets tough, and it doesn't hurt you anymore. So what hurts you bad enough in your life to get you up to persevere? And that's what I've done for my entire life. And I'm trying to help women and men and everyone understand that life is going to throw you a curveball, but that's okay. Sit up there and just keep trying to swing.
Oh my goodness, that is such great messaging. And you talk about how your family tells you to keep going, and you talk about your family a lot. So let's
Yes.
invest a little time talking about your family. First of all, it's true that the film Lean on Me is based on your father. Yes?
Yes, A Lean on Me came out in 1989, and Morgan Freeman played my father. My father's the late great Dr. Joe Clark. He was a high school principal with a baseball bat and a bullhorn. But JBH, the reality is this: it wasn't about the baseball bat and the bullhorn. He was trying to get the same conditions in the school in the urban areas as some of the suburban schools had. And the baseball bat signified 3 things. One, what are you going to do? It's your turn to bat. Are you going to hit a home run? Or are you going to strike out? 2, are you going to let your circumstances get in the way of your success? And 3, which was the biggest one, was that a lot of these kids didn't have fathers. So my father was the father figure. And he was going to say that if you believe in me, like I believe in you, together we can achieve greatness. And at that time, it was just graduating from high school. And that was something I learned from my father. My mother was an entrepreneur. And she always told me, Joetta, just because someone has not done something doesn't mean you can't do it. So with that coming from them, and then I have my siblings, we grew up in a household full of love, full of prayer, full of sacrifices for my parents. And their whole objective was to give us the tools that we would need to make a difference in the lives of others and to give back. And that's what I've been fortunate enough to do and learn from my parents. They are not here. They both transitioned in 2020, 9 months apart. But I lean on my father all the time. He says, lean on me. So I lean on my mother, and I use my mother's mamalees all the time. Those sayings that she said, growing up, such as, what doesn't come out in the wash comes out in the rinse. Those sayings like that, I always find myself saying those to my daughter as well. So my parents are dear and near to me even now. And at 60 years old, I reflect on them, and I still want to make them proud and happy out of what I'm doing, and then also how I'm helping others as they go through this life or here on earth.
Oh, so much is in there, girl. So much. Okay, so let me just take
Yes.
my time. Okay, and I'm bobbing like I'm in church. I'm just bobbing like first of
Yeah.
all, 60 is looking so good. Okay, 60
Yes.
is
Yeah.
looking
Thank you.
but you talked about the baseball bat, and oftentimes when people who are not familiar with the culture nor the journey see a Black man waving a bat, they think of violence. In my
Right.
home, we see a Black man waving a bat and we think of Jackie Robinson and potential and ability and discipline and
Yes.
things you were talking about. So I'm really
Yes.
glad able to talk about the significance of that bat for people.
Right.
When you go back and you look at that movie, I'm sure you've gone back to see it from time to time. Do you
Yes.
have changing opinions on it or evolving opinions? Joetta, how does it make you feel seeing Morgan Freeman playing your father? Those are two
Well,
questions.
thank you, JBH. I look at the movie differently now. I just saw it last week. It came on TV, and I actually sat there and watched it from beginning to end. I caught the very beginning. And what I looked at were two things. One, I looked at the cars and the environment. And two, I looked at it from a point of it is an amazing piece of work, because what happened then is happening now in all school districts, not only urban, but suburban and rural. So my father was ahead of his time, and it makes me proud to have that piece still here, seeing Morgan Freeman play my father. We always say that that was one of his best pieces of work. He never got an award for that, and we think that he should have. But the bigger picture here is that when to answer your question, when I look at it, I look at the kids and the people that were in the movie, how they have gone on to do amazing other movies. That was like the springboard for so many people in that movie. And also, my father's legacy is imbued in history. So his grandchildren can see what their grandfather did, and they can live through the movie and watch the movie, because the younger ones did not get a chance to really be around him much.
And Morgan Freeman did him proud.
My father would tell you that he didn't do him proud because no one could be Joe Clark, but he said he did a fine job. My father was one of those guys that spoke from the heart and with the truth, but he was very proud of the movie. Actually, when they came to make the movie, Mark, forgot his name, not Mark Twain. I forgot his first name. His last name was Twain. He didn't believe it, because my father thought that movies were only made of people that were not here, that were not alive. So he was alive, and he was like, well, I don't want you to do this movie about me because I may not be here just to see it. So that was the big joke in the family. But in 1989, that was a blessing to have that movie made. And it threw him in a different pathway of life. And I looked at the struggle that my parents did growing up in the 40s and coming up north, as they would say, from Georgia, and having to work multiple jobs to put themselves through college. And seeing the sacrifice they made for us, working and taking us across the country or flying and doing all these things. So I've been able to have a life of sacrifice from my parents, but I'm very humble. I know from where I came. And to whom much is given, much is required. So at every level of life, I'm able to give back to where I am in my space, and that's important for me.
Well, I said I look to you because you're so teaching and inspiring. You just taught me. You just put me in correct, Joetta, because I have a renowned actress who asked me about the rights to my life to make a movie, and my response was, "I'm not done yet."
Mhm.
And she said, "Well, then we'll make a sequel." And I was like, "No, no, no." But now you're teaching me. I may rethink that a little bit.
Well, please do. Please do. Leave your mark. You've done a great job in business. Obviously, you've been somewhere that no one was. And the thing about being the first to do it means that you had no one showing you. But from what you built, your empire that you built, you have us looking at you saying, wow, this is how it was done. But you didn't have anyone teaching you how to do what you did. You just put your nose to the grindstone. You started working at small companies, and then your first client was someone that was very dear to you, and you took off, and look what you're doing now. So you are a pioneer. And when we look at you, as you said, you would like to sit at my feet. That's something that God does. We sit next to each other on the couch, and we rub elbows because iron sharpens iron. And when I looked and researched, and we got in touch with each other, it was like, wow, this is someone that I've watched afar. Let me reach out now and see what we can do and to put this together. And your platform is amazing for everyone to understand that, again, in life you're going to have sacrifices. I have my 3 S's: have a strategy, know your skill set, and have staying power. What is your strategy in life? As an athlete, what was my strategy? As a businesswoman, what is your strategy? So what are your skill sets? Athletically, what was my skill set? I was not a javelin thrower. I was a half miler. Know your skill set. As a businesswoman, what are my skill sets? Well, I connect people. I can get people to sponsor events. And then I surround people around me that can do the other things and stay in power. It's been over 3 decades that I've been able to be in this space. You have been in this space for over 4 decades and even more. So what is your staying power? And so often people quit when they're right there. You're right there. Hang in there just a little bit longer. We always say, reach beyond that knot and hold on. Because if you reach below that knot, you're going to fall down. So when you're going through those S's, when you're working on your strategy, when you're working on your skill sets, when you're working on your staying power, reach beyond that knot and hold on and swing into your success.
Wow, swing into your success. I love that, girl. Hashtag swing into your
Yeah.
success. Hey,
Yes.
Jill, talk a little bit more about your childhood because you referenced something that I believe you can uh, give us a little bit more insight to, or at least better thought on. You talked about how your dad was ahead of his time when you see where schools are now, and these aren't just urban schools. Go a little bit more into that. We're learning more and more that the home is so important, and the home has a bigger role to play now in terms of readying you for that neighborhood that you live in.
Right. And thank you for asking that question, JBH, because I had a mixed childhood. By that, I mean, I grew up in the city of Newark during the riots, the race riots. And then my parents got divorced. And then my father moved to South Orange, which was a white neighborhood, Jewish neighborhood. And when I went there, being Black, they automatically thought I wasn't smart. And my father said, your job is not to prove anything to anybody. Just do what we have, taught you to do and believe in yourself. So then when I'm now in school and in these top classes and AP classes, it's like, wow, this is amazing. This is great. My background taught me to be kind, to be respectful, but it also taught me that people who don't look like me are not always against me. And growing up in that 60s, you had that race divide. But I was someone that, what, I can make friends on both sides. I understand being struggling. I understand being more affluent, but by the grace of God go I. So I never looked down on anybody, and I used my background to be a chameleon. So wherever I am, I'm humble, I appreciate, and I can fit in. And then I think that my childhood gave me the foundation to realize that I am different, but embrace my difference. And that's what my parents always tried to tell their kids, to embrace your difference. God has given everyone something different. And if you try and change the direction of what God has put in you, then you won't hit your mark. So be different, embrace your difference. I was tall, I was dark, I had a scary curl. Embrace that. That makes you stand out. But be smart, be humble, don't give up, be the best at what you do. And in track, I was the best at what I did. It didn't come easily. I didn't get all the advertising at that time. I had to really do more than everyone else did to get advertising. But guess what? I reached beyond that knot and held on. And in 1996, I had a Nike campaign for the Atlanta Games, and that wouldn't have happened if I had given up. I wanted to be a model when I was a kid. I wanted to model, and I was a dancer. I danced with the Alvin Ailey Dance Company, the junior company over in New York. So that's what I wanted to do. And that was my aspiration. So as a little kid, I was on the bus going over to the city and the trains, because I was in New Jersey, going over to New York. And that was what I wanted to do. But as I got older and realized that I could run and was winning, I enjoyed that as well. But I had the ability to be a dancer or to be an athlete, a track athlete. And dancers are, make no mistake about it, they are very athletic. And I chose this path. But so my childhood was very important. And as parents, we have to look and see what our kids have. So often we rob them from their joy, from their passion, from their purpose. Because when they say, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a model, I want to be a teacher, I want to own a Fortune 500 company, they say you can't do that. And as parents, we have to keep that light flickering of hope in our children and do the best that we can to make sure that that happens, that they have those opportunities. So even though as a parent, we may not have experienced some of the things that they're talking about, because this world is so wide now with the internet and everything that they have at their disposal. As a parent, it's my job for my daughter to make sure that if she says she wants to do that, put her in connection, put her in the spaces to believe in her, to pray over her, that happens. Now, some of her things we have to question, but I don't question in a way to take away her hope. Hope is what you have to have. And as a parent, that is what we have to do.
Well, it's affirming and wonderful for me to see families embody excellence. We often see an individual who embodies excellence despite the family, despite the community. When we get to see whole families embody excellence, it's awesome. My own family, a deep Southern family, lived and breathed excellence as well. And there's an affinity and admiration here that I have for you and your family. The Clark team is also known as the first family of track and field. Talk about it, Joetta.
Well, that's in my book, I have my P's, and this P is a P of perturbed. So yes, we are the first family of track and field, but I was perturbed. I was pissed off because my brother had his wife run my event, and to make the Olympic team, only 3 people can make the event. Well, my brother's wife, who graduated from HBCU, Alabama A&M, she was doing great in the 400, which was 1 lap. But my brother wanted her to move up to have longevity in the sport. I did not want that to happen, because I'm like, well, we already have enough folks here. We don't need to add her in to my event. To make a long story short, she came into my event, and the second time she ran the 800, she set an American record. Well, I was perturbed. I was pissed off. I was questioning why my brother did that. I always say, Jay, I got in a lot of trouble because of you. Because as you know, the older sibling, when your younger sibling child did something wrong, you got in trouble twice. 1, because they did something wrong, and 2, because you didn't stop them. And he said, well, he calls me sister. He said, well, sister, a happy wife is a happy life. So I understood that, but I'm still perturbed. And a long story short, again, I stayed in the event. I stayed with Team Clark, and I ended up making a lot of money running the 800 with her in the event because now I'm the rabbit. A rabbit is someone who leads you through the event and then they stop. Well, because I was so good at the 800, I could go further than most people on pace. So now I'm getting paid more money to run and stop than I would to finish. The moral of the story here for business as well is just because the woman or man that comes into your business that has the same skill set that you do, you can still grow and learn and do things together. And I think a lot of times we feel intimidated. We don't understand that we can grow with someone with like minds in our space. And I tell women that it's important that we do that, that we help one another, that we believe in one another. When you have someone that comes into your business, let them know about what they can get in their 401k plan. Let them know how the industry is working. Don't just leave them out there to struggle for themselves. You know, each one, reach one, teach one. And that's what it's all about in sports and in business.
Well, that's a phenomenal lesson, and it's one that I think as we watch the news and as we watch the stock exchange,
Yes.
it's one that can continue to be taught more importantly today, perhaps, than when you were learning it for yourself. Joetta, has there been a single person outside your family who's impacted your life and thinking in a dynamic way?
Well, I will say I have a bunch at various stages, but I'm going to go to my college career. When I left high school in New Jersey, I was the top high school recruit in the country, and that's what Sports Illustrated said about me. I graduated with Patrick Ewing, with Cheryl Miller, with Charles Barkley, and those people, and I was the top high school recruit and the number one athlete. I was coached by a male. I went to the University of Tennessee in Knoxville. That was the first time that I saw an all women staff. The only male that we had on the staff was the volleyball coach. We had the women athletic director, the women sports information director, the women PR person, the women coaches. It was just amazing. It was the first time that I saw women in charge and women that were winning outside of my family. We had Pat Head Summit, who was a legend. We had my coach, Terry Carpet, who was a legend. And I said, you know what? I see these women doing powerful things. I want to emulate them, imitate them, and go to the next level. So they were the school, the people on the sports department were the people that transformed my life that way. And then as an adult, there's a woman called Dr. Lillian Green Chamberlain, who was a pioneer in sports back in the early 50s. She was going over to the Iron Curtains and over to Russia and East Germany way before women were allowed to do that. She went on and got a doctorate from Colorado, and she has been a mentor of mine. And she is the person that tells me, Joetta, fix that, tweak that. She is my accountability person, but she also shows me love, and she understands my mind, how it thinks. And I go to her a lot to help her direct me through the different ventures that I'm going to have. So between the UT sports department and Dr. Lillian Green Chamberlain, those have been the people that have kind of shaped my space as at this point in my life.
This is so incredible. And I'm so grateful that you're able to share who they are and how they are in
Yes.
this with us. You know, Joetta, you're the president of a foundation that promotes involvement with physical activities for school age children. Talk about that a little bit and how that got started. I mean, as I said, I'm
Yes.
at feet.
Well, look, the Joetta Clark Dick Sports Foundation was founded over two decades ago. And the foundation started because we wanted to promote health, wellness, and fitness in schools, but also talk about education. So my program was the gym program in so many schools throughout the state of New Jersey. We would get grants and we would go into schools. And the purpose here wasn't about becoming an Olympian or about becoming an Olympic champion. It was about becoming the champion of your life and giving you tools and the resources that you needed to do that. So we would go into schools K through 12. for 6 weeks and 12 weeks, and we would do those programs. When COVID came around, we were no longer allowed to go into the schools, and we haven't picked back up with that. But we still give out scholarships, and we still do our track and field camp, which is coming into its 22nd year. And I'm so thankful, I'm so blessed that for 22 years, it would be 23 years, but we didn't do one the COVID year, that I've been able to do these camps, see these amazing kids come through my camp that are going on to Harvard and Yale and that have become Olympians. It's just amazing to see. And when I'm traveling or when I get my LinkedIn and one of my kids says, Joetta, this is where I am now. I'm now an attorney down in Atlanta. I'm now over at Yale getting my PhD. And they remember the quotes and things that I taught them. It just makes my heart feel so happy, because if I had not done these programs and touched these kids in a way, where would they be? Because they remember the things that we talked about years ago. So you know that you did something great.
Well, I'll tell you something as you're talking, and as I know you, Joetta, Lean on Me was about Joe Clark, but Learn from Her is going to be about Joetta.
I like that.
That happening too. As a matter of fact, as a thriving leader, both on and off the track, what qualities do you think are essential to succeed? I mean, just give us that list.
Well, I'm going to give you my P's. Know your purpose. And when you have your purpose, you have to be patient. You're not going to get what you want all the time. You have to put some work behind it. And then you have a purpose, you get patient, you prepare. You have to prepare. Preparation is key. You have to plant a garden and prepare for your success. And then you get perturbed. You know, people are going to say you can't do something. Joetta, you know, you're Black, you're dark skinned, you're from this side of the track. You're white, you're tall, you're Hispanic, you're this. They give you all these reasons why you can't do something. It's because they can't do it and they don't want to see you grow. And they want to take away your vision and your victory. So stay to that, and then you persevere. You keep going. I often say, if you're going to be a champion, if you're going to be successful, if you're going to be her, as these kids say now, I'm her. Well, if you're going to be her, you have to remember, you win or lose by an inch. You are successful or you fail by an inch. And that's an acronym for I never cease hoping. And those are some of the qualities that you have to be successful and to be the champion of your life. And when you're all said and done, you know, I like to win. So you have to play your hand to win. So you have to remember your ACE. And ACE stands for be accountable, be credible, and be enthusiastic. And when you do that, you have all you need with hard work and with prayer to accomplish your vision. You know, with no vision, there's no victory.
Well, wow. Oh, girl, like I said, you're taking me to church. People talk about you as being successful. How do you define success? And importantly, how do you measure success?
JBH, that's a great question. And I'm going to use a poem to kind of tell you what I think success means. And it's going to be the last part of the poem. You may fool the whole world down the pathways of life and get pats on the back as you pass. But your true reward will be heartache and pain if you trick that person in the glass. So for me, success means when I look myself in that mirror and I can say, well done. That's successful for me. And who have you helped along your journey?
Wow, wow, wow. Don't just see yourself in that mirror, right?
Absolutely not. It's a bigger picture out there. But you have to be true to yourself when you look at that person in that mirror.
When you look at your mirror, more importantly, when you look over your career thus far, what's your proudest achievement?
Well, in sports, I've been around for such a long time, over 3 decades. But I will say, honestly, making the Olympic team, we went 1, 2, 3. My sister, who was 15 years younger, she made her first team at that time. My sister-in-law made her 4th team at that time. And then myself. We were coached by my brother. And guess what? Both of my parents were alive and in that audience to watch that competition. So when I look at my career, that is a proud moment. Yes, I went undefeated in high school. I got a scholarship to go to college. I am a 10 to 12 time All American SEC champion. Yes, I am a 15-time USA champion indoor and outdoors. I've set American records in gold and gotten gold medals. But I always say, I got the gold medal of life. I didn't get the gold medal in the Olympic Games. I got the gold medal of life. I've traveled across the world. I lived the lifestyle of the rich and shameless. And I've had the opportunity to meet wonderful people, many that are still my friends today.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Joetta, we associate you with success. You yourself referenced, wait a minute, earlier in our conversation, I'm a 4-time winner, which means I'm a 2-time loser. It's important for people to learn that you can fail your way to success sometimes as well.
That's
If they
right.
understand your inch, winning by inches. What were some of the most challenging times for you that you care to share that can
Sure.
also be teaching for others?
A teaching lesson, JBH, was that I was running in a time period where there were the Eastern Bloc countries. And at that time, there was steroids being used in East Germany and Russia and Hungary and Budapest at that time, Czechoslovakia at that time, Poland. These countries were far greater than what we were. They were running, for example, 1 minute and 54 seconds for the 800. I was only running 1 minute and 59 seconds. Every race, I was behind at least 50 yards, but I kept going. And the point here is that failure, I did not win, but I didn't look at myself as a failure because I was doing something that I liked. But I did look at the situation and say, Joetta, hang in there, keep on going, keep on trying. And there were times when I wanted to quit because I knew that I was not going to be able to beat them because of what they were doing, and I wasn't going to put those substances in my body. But it goes back to knowing your purpose, getting joy, getting fulfillment, and I wasn't getting paid. So I'm not winning the race. I'm not getting paid. I am taking last a lot of times. I am being overlooked for advertising and for commercials because of my skin and how they thought I looked. They told me that I didn't have the Fifth Avenue look, and I got offended by that. So what I was able to do was I internalized that, and I studied more in school. I trained wiser. I hung in there, and I went from 1980 all the way to when the wall came down in Germany, came down in 1989. 1989. In 1990, I started getting good because there was no more communism. Things changed, things shifted. And now I'm one of the best in the world when 1982 came around. So the failure was hard, but I didn't look at it as failure. I looked at it as a challenge. And was I up for the challenge? And because I enjoyed what I was doing athletically and in business, I kept on going. People would say, Joetta, we can't give you a grant. And as you know, when you apply for a grant, if you don't have a grant that you've already received, they would say, we're not going to give you this. And I would never forget this. Back in the day, we had to write letters and fill out grants and mail it in. We got the notice, JBH, that said, you did not get the grant. I made a phone call. I believe in what I'm doing. I believe in these kids. I'm going to call these people up. I called them up. I said, hey, why didn't we get the grant? They said, we did not give you the grant because when it said, had you ever had a grant, you checked no. I thought. My mother always said, give thy thought no tongue. I thought about it. And then I said, give me a slow yes, not a fast no. And they gave me a slow yes. They said no one had ever said that. I didn't get the $25,000 grant. I only got $7,000. But with that $7,000, I did more than anybody had ever done. And what happened next year? I got what we wanted to get. So the failures, once you go back and evaluate what happens, then you have the opportunity to make changes. You can't keep doing the same thing and get a different result. So again, I didn't look at things as failures, but I did get hurt. I was upset. I was perturbed. But if I looked at it as a failure, I may not have tried to do it again. So I wanted to keep that hope alive.
Oh my goodness. And you have kept the hope alive for so many of us. Joetta,
Yes,
you're a four-time Olympian. You were on top 10 in the world for practically your entire early career. What
yes.
things are most important to you these days?
Right now, honestly, the most important thing for me at this point in time is for me to do two things. One, to continue to mentor and be supportive for my daughter, who is a college athlete, student athlete. She is the best in college, a world champion, NCAA champion, an American record holder. And she is also a 4.0 student studying international studies, um, political science, and minoring in Asian studies, fluent in
And
Spanish.
might I add, she's
Yes.
teaching she's teaching Fifth Avenue what beauty is.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I will tell her that you said that. So that is my greatest joy right now, not seeing myself through her, allowing her to be who she is, and the legacy plays out how it does, but being supportive and traveling and watching her run and watching her get awards and making those dots, connecting those dots so that she has an opportunity to go next level. We talk about Title IX and what we did 50 years ago, and we just can't let that drop. So these young, powerful, amazing women that are in their 20s and 30s and 40s have the opportunity to change, to make changes and take the torch and keep going. And we have to inspire and encourage and let them know, one, where we were, but not for us to stay there, but for you to say, hey, that happened. What can I do in these times to leave a mark in the world of business and sports? And so that is where I find my joy. And then I also find joy in self-care, putting myself first, knowing the importance of being healthy. That's why we have Time Fitness, JOTYME Fitness, because we want to make sure that you make fitness a lifestyle. And a lot of people have this and they have that and they do this and they do that when they want to. It's a lifestyle. Take care of yourself, your mind, body, and soul. And that is what I am doing. And I tell people I'm fit now at 60 because at 38, I was putting the work in. So I want to live 80 and beyond. So I put the work in now. So when that time comes when I'm 80, I can get ready for my 100th year.
Oh, I love it, love it, love it. Joetta, before we go four for four, there's just one
Yes,
more I got to ask you. And you've taken us
yes,
to church.
yes.
Talk about faith.
Mm. Well, I tell you, faith is something in all families. I would think that there's some type of faith that you pull on something. So I don't want to say exactly you have to do it my way, but I know for where everything comes. And I understand it and I pray and I study and I understand that, you don't look down on people. You humble yourself. Jesus walked amongst the people. So I walk amongst the people. I go back into areas that people would not go to because they feel as though they have reached beyond that. But no, that's the foundation of who I am. And I feel comfortable here in those spaces. I know that I tell my daughter that when you are going through life and you are working on your faith, it takes work. You have to be intentional about your faith. And when you stumble, that's okay. God forgives you. When things don't go your way, you are forgiven. But I know where everything comes from. And I understand that divine intervention. And at this point in my life, I say I'm very thankful that my parents read to me, that we studied and we went to church and we went to Sunday school and we did all of those things because it's the foundation of who you are. And yes, as you get older, you find your own space and you do it how you do it. But I'll tell you what, without faith, nothing's going to happen. You have to have faith, even as a mustard seed, just a little bit of faith. That's all you need. And you have to, I tell my daughter and my friends, when you are in that space of faith and belief, you have to look in odd places because things are going to be in spots that you're not going to see. in the burning bush. You know, they're going to be over there. There's going to be a goat with his horn stuck somewhere. And you have to see that. So we're so busy going this way. When you have faith, you have to be able to look off and veer off the beaten path. You have to be able to walk up to that water and understand that it's going to part, cease. You have to have the faith to walk around the wall. You're going to have the faith to touch the hem of something. And then you're going to have that power sucked out. And they go, whoa, that's virtue. Have the power to go into a room and then speak your power and not be afraid. And then someone will see that and go, you know what? She or he is someone special. So faith is very important to me, and I lean on it all of the time. So thanks for asking that.
Oh my goodness, Joetta. And I mean, you were taking us back old school. And for a minute, I felt as though I was sitting in St. Paul Baptist Church in Howroyd, North Carolina, 1950.
North Carolina.
Talking about mustard seed faith.
Yes,
talking
yes,
about
yes.
the burning bush. Talking about, oh my, parting waters. Girl, you, okay, all right, look.
Yeah.
Whoa, let me just breathe for a second. Breathe
You know,
in. Let me breathe in.
Breathe in and exhale. You know, JB, you know, I want to just, I know you want to go through your 4 points that you wanted to talk about that you said, but I just want to leave the audience with my garden of success. In this garden, you plant your 6 rows of peas, have a purpose, get prepared, be patient, get perturbed, persevere, and pray. In this garden, plant 3 rows of squash gossip, squash criticism, and squash indifferences. In this garden, plant 3 rows of lettuce. Let us love one another. Let us be loyal, and let us respect diversity. And no garden would be complete without those 3 rows of turnips. Turn up for yourself, turn up for your health, and turn up with the determination to do a better job tomorrow than you did today. If you plant that garden and you water it with that ace, be accountable, be credible, and get an education, then your success is right there. Right there. Plant it.
Oh my goodness. Squash, lettuce, turnip, ace.
A lot.
Woo.
Yes.
Girl, listen, I am so full right now. I'm so grateful right now. I did tell you I want to go 4 for 4 with you.
Yes,
all right?
Yes, you did. Yes.
Let's go 4 for 4. Just
okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. There are no wrong answers. They're just Joetta's answers.
Okay.
Joetta, this is what the 4 are. I'm going to ask you 4 questions to which you'll give me 4 answers.
Sure.
The first going 1 for 4. You get to invite anybody from history through present to dinner. Who's at your table and why? 4 people.
4 people. Well, one person that would be at my table would be James Baldwin, a literary genius. I think that would be amazing to have him at my table. Another one would be Maya Angelou. Just understanding how she was silent for so many years. And then after being silent and going through what she went through, and then giving power to her voice, and then a voice to poetry and to so many different things. I would love just to hear her talk about that time period, and that would be a person that I would love to have. Nelson Mandela is someone that I would love to have at my table to just talk about the plot and of apartheid and that whole piece. And then another person would be Coretta Scott King, understanding the raising your family at being a single parent, knowing the history of your husband and having to go through life without him, but still having his legacy there, and just that whole piece of supporting his beliefs and getting behind him, because so often now we don't support people that we love, and we leave them out there by themselves. So I would like to hear how that happened and how I could glean some knowledge, or how I could have applied that to my life in that space.
Oh, wow. You know what? I'm coming to that dinner as well. You get 5. And it's me.
Good.
That's awesome,
yes.
Girl. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what 4 artists, I should say, are you listening to musically these days, and why?
Well, my music is, I go through different genres. I love Yolanda Adams, so that she's my go-to person. Maverick is another group that I'm kind of liking their music, gospel wise. I always listen to. You could always find a Whitney Houston, uh, Patti LaBelle, Gladys Knight, that crew. But I also like her. Is the artist called Her, Her. I love listening to her music, and Jill Scott. That's different genres. A Babyface, Tony Braxton. Those are the people that I listen to. And then my jazz music, or old, school jazz, contemporary, not the modern jazz, the old contemporary jazz. I go to Al Jarreau. Mark Whalen is more instrumental now, but I like him as well. And those are the spaces that I listen to. There's some rap music or that R&B that I listen to, from Usher to some of Drake's music, and Lil Wayne, because my daughter listens to that. So I need to be attuned to what she's listening to, just to get a feel on what's being said. And when I talk to kids, I have to be able to be relatable in their space. And music puts, music and sports, that breaks down barriers. So I have to be able to be in that space with them a little bit.
Wonderful. What a playlist. Hey,
Yes.
Joetta, what 4 books do you recommend our family read and why? Give the
Sure.
author names if you have them.
Sure. One book would be my book, Joetta's Principles for Success, Life Lessons Learned Through Track and Field. It's a book about sports, but also it parallels business. And at the end of each chapter, there are questions that you answer, and you develop a template for your success. So that's one book. Another book that I love, I talked about Maya Angelou, would be I Now Know Why Cage Birds Sing. And that's speaking, giving her voice to talk about what she had to go through in the voice of the caged bird. And that's amazing. Another book was a book that my father made a must-read book, and it was Before the Mayflower, which was by LeBron Bennett. It was talking about the transition
Leroy
from
Bennett. Leroy Bennett.
Leroy. That's right, Leroy Bennett. Thank you. From Africa over here. So there's a lot of history in there, a lot of facts in there, and sometimes you lose history. You hear his story, and that book definitely spoke to that. And I think another book would be, that's 4. I gave you 4.
No, go on.
And then with John Maxwell's book, Think and Grow Rich. The Bible is always a good book, but people take it however they take it. But you study and read those books. So those are books that I go to quite often. There are other books Toni Morrison and books like that I just read for fun. But those were some of the books that I read. And I read a lot of books about empowerment, or a lot of articles about motivation and finances as well.
It's a beautiful, beautiful book list, and we'll be posting your book list along
Okay,
with
you.
information on how to learn more about what you're doing and engage with it.
Yes.
4 for 4. What are 4 pieces of advice you have for our family right now? And if it's advice that was given to you, let us know who shared it with you. If it's your advice, we take it at face value, Joetta.
Yes. Well, one piece of advice would be the bend in the road is not the end of the road. Just remember to turn. When you come to a place in the road where you think you're going to go off with the cliff, don't do that. Just keep turning, and you're going to get to your victory. Another piece of advice I would give is simple. And this is me. Be true to yourself. Be authentic. There's nothing wrong with being different. There's a lot of copycats out there. Be different. It's like when you walking and you see that rose that's pushing up through the crack in the cement, and you're wondering how that rose is pushing through that crack when it's the only rose there. Be that rose that stands out and pushes through that crack. Another piece of advice I would say would just because someone's your friend in a season doesn't mean they have to be your friend forever. And I think friendships, a relationship, associates, we hold on to those sometimes a little bit too long. So people come in your life for seasons and reasons, and trust yourself enough to understand what that purpose was at that time in your life. And then the other thing would be forgiving. We hold grudges for reasons that we don't even know why we hold them. Be forgiving. It's not for the other person, it's for yourself. And when you forgive and when you let go, when you free yourself, you blossom, you grow, you develop, and you find your raison d'etre, your purpose, your reason for being. And you weren't put here to be upset, to be sad, to harness feelings of anxiety and hatred. So, that's what I would say. Those are my 4 for 4 in that space.
Woo! Okay, you run track and field, baby, and you run strong in faith.
Yes.
Let me tell you, Joetta, this has just been an amazing conversation for me. I'm sure our family is enjoying it. So, from my heart to your home, thank you.
And JBH, thank you very much. You are an amazing woman. You should be put up there, even etched in stone as you go through life. You've done so many wonderful things for so many people on so many different boards, inspiring education, philanthropic work, just what you're doing. And it's just an honor for me to be in your space in this place and time. So thank you for allowing me the opportunity to stop by your space and place to glean knowledge from you. Your hope, your enthusiasm. You're so humble, and I appreciate that very much. So thank you.